We are going live.
Let me see if I can do this. Look, I might have to get my daughter to help me.
You look so good, Shamira.
Thank you. I, I appreciate it. Sanaya, how do I do this? Sanaya, how do I do help mommy?
Tell Sanaya I say hi. Oh my gosh.
Hold on, let me get her back.
Little legacy. How's she doing?
She good. But you know, she's going into the 10th grade.
Oh my gosh. They
Mhm.
are growing up so fast.
Do I just click this right here? Oh, the way we twinning with our shirts. Do I press this? Okay, this right here. Oh, the way we twinning with our shirts. Do I press this?
Okay, I see you joined.
All right, I'm gonna send a request to join. This right here. Oh, the way we twinning with our shirts. Do I press this? Okay.
Got you.
I'm gonna have to mute.
Hey, Sora Wiggins. I see you joining us from Santa Fe, New Mexico. Oh, wait a minute. Let me turn one down. And you might have to turn one of your devices down too, so we won't have that feedback.
How about that? Does that work?
No, I think we got to turn it down a little bit more. Let me turn this device down too, so we won't have that feedback. Okay. Oh,
All right, now let me test one more time.
turn your phone all the way down. That might help. Glenda, I don't know where the dag going. Hold on. Glenda, I don't know where the email went. You had pulled it up, but I don't know where it is now. All right, we're getting ready to get started. Normally, I would have music playing, trying to set the mood. To you all, this has been we've had a great family vacation. We did. However, Spirit Airlines had some shiggity with them. I don't know how else to say it, but this sister right here will never fly Spirit Airlines again because they, first of all, delayed. I can send it again. They delayed us to 7:40, and our original time was 5. They delayed us to 7:40, so we were thinking we had, some extra time. We decided to go to Disney Springs, and then they send an update at 3:10 saying, "Oh, we're back on schedule. We're gonna do the 5 o'clock departure time." And our resort is like 40 minutes from the airport. So how are we to make a flight at 5 when you send a new update at 3:10? It's just the math wasn't mathing, as they say. The math wasn't mathing. So I don't know, but Spirit Airlines would never get another red cent from me. So that is why we had to push our time back to 4 p.m. because I literally was in the air at 1 p.m. because we we got delayed on Friday, and because we couldn't make that flight, that 7:40 flight or the 9 p.m. flight, they delayed us all the way till today and charged us for it. So, uh so we will not be able to, of course, we couldn't make this 1 p.m. time. So I'm just really excited about our Sparkle sister today. And if you all would just bear with me, because I'm trying to use my sister's phone It's an iPhone, and I'm an Android girl, y'all. Oh my gosh, the struggle is real with this iPhone. Can you open it up one more time for me? And I'm gonna try to keep it active. What did you do? Oh, okay. See, I'm an Android girl. Okay, all right. So thank you all for bearing with us with the time change. But I'm just really excited about our Sparkle sister today that we have, Shamira Carr. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining us on Sparkle Saturday. I'm Kimberly Braxton, Coach Kimberly Braxton. I'm your favorite transformation coach. And I just love seeing women thrive from the inside out. And so Sparkle Saturdays with our Sparkle Sisters allows us to see other women who are thriving from the inside out. So I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself. So tell us about yourself, where you're from, and what you do, and all about your business. Because your business is not all you do. You have many hats. So tell the people. Tell the people.
Okay, well, thank you. I want to make sure you can hear me on both sides.
Yes.
Good, 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 good. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited for the opportunity. And so a lot of times, almost is an understatement. I consider myself modern renaissance because I have a lot of hats that I can wear. So on a personal level,
Hold on, sis. Hold on. So I hear you on Instagram, but I don't hear you on the StreamYard. So I think your mic is muted on StreamYard. So we just gonna we rewinding it.
I got both devices side by side, so I'm worried you might get feedback again. So let's test it. Y'all bear with us.
Okay.
Testing.
Just a little bit. Just turn. You can keep your mic open for StreamYard, but turn your volume down some.
Yeah, the volume is all the way down on StreamYard.
Okay,
I can
just
see
not
it.
all the way, but like just have it open a little bit.
Testing one. Yeah, I might have to drop from because I have two devices. I think I
Okay. All right, well then drop from I'd rather you drop from Instagram and we'll work it out.
okay. I can try to log in from a computer
Okay.
to StreamYard. Y'all
Oh
can hear
yeah,
me
that would
fine.
be good.
Okay. So you want to entertain the folks and I'll wrap my mic
Yeah,
up.
sure. Sure. So you guys, again, we do a family vacation every year. And I had already said, because you all know that I am a Black expat and I live in Abu Dhabi and I really enjoy travel. So I had already made a decision that I wanted to enjoy the entire journey, right? And that also meant that I would choose different airlines. I'll say different airlines because I want to enjoy the experience from packing to getting to the airport to waiting for the flight to getting to the destination and getting back home with the same process. So that also meant that I would rule out certain airlines, and Spirit was one of them. However, since my family was all traveling Spirit, I said, okay, well, I'll just go with the family because everybody's on Spirit. And the process getting there, that was okay. We were a little bit worried because the flight before ours going to Fort Lauderdale was canceled. So we were a little bit worried that our flight would be canceled. And I don't like that feeling. However, our flight was not canceled. We were able to get to Orlando as scheduled and had a great time. Did Universal, saw snakes, saw alligators, saw wild turkeys, saw armadillos, saw what else did we see? Uh, Cranes, storks, just a whole animal kingdom out there. And I've been to Florida many times, and I've been to Orlando many times. However, I'd never seen an alligator out in the wild, and there was literally an alligator on our resort waiting, like just chilling in the sun, whatever they were doing. Just out there. And so that was a first for me to see an alligator in the wild like that. So it was a great trip. Enjoyed the family, enjoyed Universal Studios. The rides were great. However, just that whole trying to get back home, with the delay, and then, now we're on time. It just was very interesting, very interesting. So we're just waiting for our Sparkle sister to get back on StreamYard, and then we're gonna get started. Let me see. I think I need to let her in. I need to add her to the stream. Okay, there we go. Okay. So you could just turn your volume down on your StreamYard, not all the way, but just as low as you can get it. And I think that'll help with the feedback.
All right, I'm gonna test it. How's that?
Oh, you sound great. I
Great.
don't hear any feedback.
Wonderful.
Perfect. All
Yay.
right, great. All right, so we're going to redo that first question. Thank you
Yep.
so much again for joining. Thank you for being patient through the tech issues. So our first question is just, tell us about yourself, where you're from, what you do, and about your business. And I said both of those last two parts because I know you do more than just, your business with Divinor Apparel. So tell
Yep.
us. People want to know.
Absolutely. So I'm hearing feedback, so I hope that's not too distracting, y'all.
No, it's not.
Okay. Very good. So I am a mom of two. I'll start from a personal perspective. A mom of two. I have a son and a daughter. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you all that I'm a member of Sigma Gamma Rho sorority. My heart bleeds blue and gold. Um, I am not only a mom, a member of a sorority, devout Christian. So you will hear a little bit of that in my interview. I also own two businesses. So there is Divinor Apparel, which is a self affirming apparel brand. And that is my newest endeavor. But there's also books by Mira. So I am an author of two children's books, self published author. And you'll hear a little bit later about my third book, which I am super excited about. And so, in addition to the books, I do all kinds of handmade items. So, handmade bookmarks, handmade jewelry, and you see that sprinkled throughout Divinor Apparel as well. So many, many hats I probably could go on, but I know we have quite a few questions that I'm eager to get into, so I will stop there. I will just note that I'm originally from Charlottesville, Virginia, and I'm currently residing in Richmond. So if you're in the RVA area, come out and see me tomorrow at the Lakeside Market. I'll be out there with a few books and a few handmade items. So just a little plug.
Nice.
Hope you don't mind.
Great. Thank you so much for that introduction. You all, just so you know, we're on two different platforms. We're on StreamYard, which is also on Facebook and YouTube. If you're on Facebook, of course, it's Grow Inspire Sparkle. And then we're also on Instagram. So you'll see us looking back and forth. So don't mind us. I really just want you to soak up all of the things that you're going to hear from Shamira today. We're doing this in honor of Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, and I decided to have Shamira join us on Sparkle Saturdays because of you heard her say that her brand Divinor Apparel is a self-affirming brand. So first of all, what inspired you to start the company Divinor Apparel? And it's spelled Divinor.
That's right. Um, I'm trying to just kind of keep some of the feedback by separating my mics. Let me see if I can do
Okay.
this. So Divinor, it actually stands for divinely inspired. And so
Oh.
a lot of times you will hear me call folks divines, right?
Mhm.
And so that comes directly from the title. Um, and so Divinor is truly divinely inspired. So a lot of times you'll get a vision. God will give you a vision. He'll drop something down into your spirit, but he really doesn't give you any steps to take, right? So a few years ago, I guess it's been about 5, I did go through a divorce. And so Divinor is a product of a promise that I made to myself, that I would never lose me or my peace again, which is what I did during my divorce. I allowed it to um, take too much of an effect on me, which is not unexpected when you are dealing with um, a loss, right? And so, really, Divinor is about reaffirming myself, reaffirming who I am as a woman, as a child of Christ, um, and really just using that to not just inspire me, but to inspire other women. Because I think one thing that often gets lost is the fact that there is um, promise in pain, there is recovery, right? And that you don't always have to lose you simply because of a loss or simply because of an area of trauma that you have experienced. Um, and so Divinor is just meant to be self-affirming and inspiring for women who may be going through a divorce, for women who may have experienced trauma, for women who are just facing challenges on a day-to-day basis. It's the opportunity to reaffirm and remind yourself of your divine nature.
I love that you made a promise to yourself that you weren't going to let or anyone invade your peace. Like I say, protect my peace at all costs. If it's invading my peace, either I have to address it or I have to leave it. Right? Just like even with this whole trip, like that, like for me, that situation it invaded my peace. Like I was having a great trip, and then just that one thing that happened that just kind of like it affected my sleep that night. So I was like, you know what? When I wake up, I'm going to first of all, I'm going to talk about it. However, I'm also going to write about it because I'm going to make a formal complaint. So yes, I love that you're protecting your peace. And you said, what did you say about pain? You said something in the pain.
There's promise in pain. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, I love that. My motto is that there is purpose in the pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I love both of them. There's promise in the pain.
Yeah.
Okay, so I love all of that. We're going to talk more about the divorce later, but whatever you want to weave in is fine with me. Let's move to the next question, though. Why did you infuse self-care into your business model? Because you're
Mm-hmm.
always talking about self-care on Divinor Apparel's Instagram page, and you're talking about self-care a lot. Why did you infuse that into your business model?
Yeah. So for me, self-care was my recovery, right? It wasn't until I refocused that energy back into myself um, that I was able to fully heal. And I'm still healing.
Hmm.
Um, but so many times, we as women, especially we as moms, when we're going through things, we ourselves, first thing to go, right? We stop taking care of us because we're so busy taking care of the household, so busy taking care of the kids. Um, and so, I had to come to the realization that I can't pour from an empty cup. I have to fill myself first, and that's
Right.
okay. And so, self care is embedded into Divinor because it's one of the things that I think we as women and we as Black women, where we've been ingrained to be strong, we've been ingrained to just live in this grind culture,
Mm.
and I want us to slow down. I want us to know that rest is okay. Take the nap. You know what I'm saying? Get your hair done. Take a bath. It's okay. And so I really want to disrupt the narrative, right? I want to
Yes.
disrupt the narrative that we have to be strong, that we have to take care of everything and everybody before ourselves. And so, in order to do that, I felt that it was so important to embed this idea of self care and self love into Divinor because we wear that, right? Like we wear the reminder. You wear the reminder that you're divine. You wear the reminder that you are a goddess. Um, and so it's your daily reminder to take care of yourself.
Absolutely. I love that. So, as someone who has recovered, and I'll say is still recovering from codependency, that's so important. I definitely went through a period when I was married where I put myself at the bottom of the totem pole. Sometimes I didn't even make it onto the totem pole. Everybody else came first. And then resentment built up because I felt so depleted. Like, well, when am I gonna have my time? When are we gonna do, things for me? And so I can relate to that. And a big part of why I live in Abu Dhabi is exactly what you said, the grind culture. Teaching in DC public schools last year and just I did that for 3 years, but taking that commute and then seeing how people look in the morning trying to get to work in the car. I'm gonna tell you that is really what did it for me. Like I was like, you know what? Whether I have a position or not overseas, I'm moving. Right? My whole mindset was that I'm just gonna go to Mexico and I'm just gonna teach online. I'll make it work. But I knew I needed to get out of the rat race in order to feel like I'm living. And like you said, out of not just existing in that grind culture, right? Black women are the hardest working women on the face of this earth, right? We, especially I can't speak for all cultures. I can only speak for ours. American Black women, like we work hard. We work hard. And a lot of times it's to the detriment of our mental health and our physical health. So I had to get out. Like that's how that looked for me. Getting out of the grind culture, disrupting that narrative. I left the US. Okay. So I love this whole, model that you have infused into Divinor apparel, disrupting that grind culture, putting yourself first. It's not selfish. Like you said, you cannot pour from an empty cup. I tried. It does not work. It does not work. So thank you for that. Disrupt the narrative. So, what is your inspiration for like your apparel? And you can even talk about what inspires you for your books because like your apparel is just I just bought the jean jacket, okay? Cuz I've been looking for the fancy little puffs on the shoulder and I just bought the jean jacket. And I'm going to tell you when I got it, I was like, she packaged this stuff up so nice. Like you go beyond. Like it's not like when you get something that you've ordered from like, the big companies online or whatever, and it just comes in a little plastic thing. No, it's like an experience. Opening the packages, it was an experience for me. So, what's the inspiration for Divinor apparel and your new looks that you come out with, and even your books? What's your inspiration?
So really, you are the people that I'm doing it for. Y'all are my inspiration, truly, and I love to hear you say that because that's it for me. Giving you that experience, giving you the opportunity to feel like you are doing something special, right? We don't do that enough. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so, I think for the books and for Divinor, it is about inspiring the end user and uplifting people that are so marginalized. Black women are a marginalized community, right? Argue me, right? Like I will fight you down on that point. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and Black children, right? And so I feel like I'm given the opportunity to uplift those voices in two very different ways. So for the children, for me, having two Black kids, loving books, loving literature, and not being able to take them to a bookstore or library and they see themselves in the book,
Mm-hmm.
um, that was a big inspiration because I want my kids to pick up a book and see themselves as the
Right.
character in that book.
Right.
And so I felt like I had to do something about that because representation, it matters. It's important to our Black children,
Yes.
um, and all Black and brown communities. And so both of my books are about inspiring kids to, the first one, I Can Be, inspiring kids to know that they can be whatever they want. And it compares characters, Black, well known figures that they're not going to learn about in school, like Misty Copeland, right?
Right.
Like Chadwick Boseman, people that they can relate to. And so for Divinor, it really is about empowering women to choose you first. That's the inspiration. Not last, not after your kids, not after you take care of your elderly mother. To choose you first, and that be okay.
Right.
It's not selfish, like you said. It's necessary. And so, I think my lived experience is I'm trying to pour that into Divinor because I know I'm not the only one as a Black single mother who's had this experience. And, I want to be that little bit of inspiration that helps you get through the day. I want you to put on that shirt and feel so empowered, when you go to work or, when you're maneuvering around the house or you going
Mm-hmm.
out for, a social event. I want Divinor to be for you what it has been to me, and that is a promise to myself that I will not lose me. So don't lose you. All those fabulous women out there, I don't want you to lose you. So
Yes.
that's the inspiration.
Yes, I love it. I love it. It's so funny because as someone who has dealt like I mean, I'm so much more healed now. However, when I was deep into like codependency and didn't even know that's what I was dealing with, I would feel guilty about doing something for myself. Going to get my hair done, whatever it was. Sometimes I'd feel pangs of guilt, like I should have been doing this for, like maybe I should have used this money to, my children or whatever. I would feel the guilt behind, doing something for myself or putting myself first. So I love that you said, putting yourself first and it's okay, right? Because I felt guilty. I have had moments of guilt just from little stuff, buying some clothes, just stuff like basic stuff that we all need and sometimes just want. But I would feel guilty about it, especially when I was married. But however, I'm just so much more healed now where I don't feel any guilt for it at all. I realize the importance of self care and putting myself first. And then when you talk about the books, because my son now is 27. Miles is 27. He's going to be 28 next month. I know you're like, what? But yeah, no, September. I'm already in August because my birthday's in August, so I'm already there. But he'll be 28 in September. So me trying to go, like you said, to the bookstore or to the not the bookstore, the library, trying to find books with black boys as the main character was next to impossible, right? So I resorted to just getting books with animals in them, as the main as the characters, because I couldn't find books in a plethora, right? Because we would go to the library and check out like 10, 15 books at a time for the week, or go to the bookstore and buy books. And I couldn't find books where black boys were the main character, which was my reason for writing my book, It's Only a Flower, I'd Rather Play Video Games, where the main character is a black boy. So that's why I wrote that book. So I feel you as a black mother trying to find books with representation, and it's very difficult. So I appreciate that you've written 3. So that's great. What are the names of the books? Wasn't my question, but let's let the people know. What are the names of the books?
Yep. So the first one is called I Can Be. And the second one is called Feet at Your Seat. And that one, like you, was inspired by my son specifically. Homeschooling him during COVID was a challenge. And so it was about that experience from his perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And so it teaches kids the importance of listening and learning. And so they both are available on Amazon or on my website, www.booksbymira.com. So thank you for that opportunity.
Booksbymira.com. And I'm going to ask you to type that in our private chat so I can put it in the show notes. So, when you get a chance, just type the website in the chat,
Okay.
and I'll put that in the show notes as well.
All right.
Um, so if you can repeat the website again too for anyone listening.
Yeah. It's booksbymira.com. So Mira being the latter part of my first name, BOOKS by BY Mira, MEERA.com.
Okay.
Booksbymira.com. And I just dropped it in the private chat.
Okay. So I'll make sure it gets in the show notes.
Thank you.
All right. So let's switch gears.
Sure.
And so, because part of what I really wanted to talk about was divorce recovery. Before we even get into recovery, let's talk about how you decided on divorce. Uh, you can just, and this may not even be the right question because I know it's not an easy decision. You may, however, you want to answer the question. If you want to talk about what happened, what led to it, whatever you want to share regarding your divorce, how did you come to the decision?
Yeah. So definitely not an easy decision. And so for me, it wasn't even so, let me start from the perspective of historically, right? We as black women stayed at all costs, right? My grandmother, my great grandmother, 9 times out of 10 they stayed
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't want to break up the home, because they were worried about what the community might think, because they were concerned about the impact on the kids. That wasn't my issue. That wasn't my issue at all. Because sometimes divorce is an act of self-care, okay,
Mm-hmm.
depending on your circumstances.
Yes.
For me, it was the spiritual side of divorce. It was, the Bible tells me, right, what God puts together, let no man take apart, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was my challenge. And so the decision was hard for me because of that. Um, and so I sought counseling. I sought a spiritual counselor, someone who understood the challenge that I had, um, from a spiritual perspective. My father is a pastor, right? So you just compound those things, right? And it becomes such a challenging decision. Um, but after seeing her, the first question she asked me was, "Did you put this together or did God put it together?" And I had to
Oh, snap.
pause,
Oh,
right?
snap.
And I had to pause. And so, while the word says, "What God puts together, let no man take apart." If God didn't put it together, what we worried about, right? And so
Right.
there was a lot more that went into that. But after speaking with her, I had so much peace about my decision. I had so much peace about my decision, and I moved forward. And so, I think the key is there are circumstances in life where you're going to have to seek counsel. I know that there's a stigma in the Black community about seeing therapists, about seeing counselors, but sometimes you have to seek counsel um, in order to be able to move forward in a very informed way and in a peaceful way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so for me, the divorce was an act of self care. It was necessary, but I was so worried about the impact on me spiritually, the impact on my
Mm-hmm.
relationship with Christ. And so, after I sought counsel, I proceeded. Um, but it wasn't just that easy to just say it's over. My divorce was so contentious.
Oh, wow.
Um, I was in and out of the courtroom for 5 years over this
Oh,
divorce.
wow.
And it was the divorce and the custody battle, right?
Mm.
Having to fight for your child made it even more difficult. And so, for some people, they can say, "Oh, everybody's been through a divorce. Oh, I've been through a divorce." But a divorce is not a divorce, is not a divorce, right? Each one is unique and each person is unique. So the impact that it has on you is going to be different from the next person. And so for me, the level of stress, um, the level of worry, the lack of self care,
Mm.
the amount of financial strain, it really had a profound impact. Um, but I think the key for me was remaining rooted and grounded in Christ. And so it's going to be so important for any woman, regardless of what you're going through, to find something that roots you, to find something that grounds you and keeps you grounded when hell is breaking loose around you,
Mm. Mm.
right?
Mm.
And the winds are
Yes.
blowing and you're holding on by your fingernails. It is so critical that you have something. Um, so, yeah, I probably over answered that question, but
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. And it's crazy because I'm like, did you read my diary? You've been in my journals. Because for me, it was the same. I also really held on for spiritual reasons. But my verse came out of Malachi: God hates divorce and the uncovering of the wife. So for me, that was the verse. Like I was just stuck right there. Just when I say stuck, I was stuck. Okay. And I think it just took, it was that verse. So it's spiritual. However, it was also Miles, and he was in high school. I think he was in his sophomore, it was the summer of his sophomore year. He was going into his 11th grade year, I think. And I'll never forget, I was picking him up from his friend's house. It was nighttime. I picked him up. He was just chilling over there playing video games. And on the way home, he asked me out of nowhere, "What's going on with you and dad?" And I was like, "Okay, oh, we taking it there. We about to have this conversation." And so I was like, "What do you mean?" And then he was like, "Mom, do you love dad?" I was like, "Yeah, I love your dad." And he was like, "Well, Mom," he said some things about time, spending time together. But what got me was when he said, "Mom, if you want to leave, I'll be okay." So then the floodgates open. I'm crying and driving and crying. But that actually is what pushed me to take action. Like I had the decision here and here. However, I didn't. I just couldn't take action. I was just like I said, I was stuck. It was that verse, and then I was concerned about Miles. And when he said that, that's when things just started moving forward. And my divorce was not contentious. He didn't contest it or anything. We already decided how Miles was going to, sometimes he stayed with his dad, sometimes he'd stay with me. So it was an amicable divorce. Um and I feel like God was in it because I ended up buying a townhouse and got it fully furnished in less than a year because I didn't want to fight over stuff. I didn't care to take anything with me, to be honest with you. Because I mean, still, that's my son's father, So I didn't want to fight over any stuff. Um, but God was in it because I I bought a townhouse. Like, I mean, some people aren't able to do these things when they divorce. You know what I mean? The credit sometimes is jacked up because of the divorce, but it just like that's why I say God was in it. And I'm gonna tell you, best sleep of my life was that first night when I mean no furniture now. Look, got one bed in the house. Miles is on an air mattress. No furniture downstairs, and I'm gonna tell you the best sleep ever. The best sleep ever. So I can relate to your story. Of course, my son was older, so we didn't have the whole custody thing. And it's crazy because I've known you for so long, and I never knew that you went through that battle for 5 years. It's crazy, crazy. So let's talk about how your recovery process looked. Because 5 years I mean, that's a long time to go through that. How did your recovery process look?
So the recovery itself is still ongoing, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that's for, I think, any I guess trauma really of that magnitude. Because for me, it was a traumatic experience,
Mm-hmm.
and the thing is, owning that is important, right?
Right.
Not minimizing your experience is
Mm.
important. And so, recovery for me first was, really just about acceptance. Because here's the thing, what I don't think a lot of people realize is that there is a grief period with a divorce, because a divorce is like a death, right? It's a death of your normal, it's a death of a relationship. And recovery for me started when I realized I have got to grieve.
Right.
I've got to grieve it. I have got to go through this grief process. And once I accepted that and I allowed myself to grieve, um, that's really when I feel like I started to recover. And it was through that I heard my mom's voice. And my mom would always tell me, and shout out to my mom if she's watching, but she would always tell me, be low, allow it to hurt, feel what you feel, but do not stay there. And so it was that do not stay there that I kept hearing in my head. And
Mm.
so for me, it was a lot of self help. It was a lot of self help. It
Mm-hmm.
was self help books.
Mm-hmm.
I got a life coach. Um, it was digging into the word. I would wake up and read a devotional, go to bed and read a devotional. It was a lot of self help. And I think some of that was healthy, but some of that was I probably should have. While I had a life coach, I probably should have had a therapist right alongside of that to deal more with less of the emotional and ability to function and more with the mental health, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think for me, um, I I still live under I can do it myself, right?
Okay.
I don't want to ask for help. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on that. That's still a part of my healing journey. is, you know, it's okay to ask for help.
Right.
And through Divanor, that's where I find myself really being able to grow and heal, because as I remind people through my post, I'm reminding myself at the same time,
Right.
right?
Right.
But I did a lot of self help, the books, devotionals, getting myself a life coach, and just allowing myself to grieve. You know, those were the things that helped me recover. And so, and not just in the area of divorce, and in so many other areas, me as a mom, right? Divorce impacts you as a mom, because you go from being a parent with help, right, to a single parent with no help. And so that changes the dynamic of your relationship with your children. It changes the dynamic of how you run your household, because you're doing it yourself, or you're doing it with a different village, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, lucky for me, I have both parents who are very active and very supportive. And so they helped me so much during my recovery as well. Um, so that's what my recovery from the divorce looked like. Um, I think it's going to be different from woman to woman. But you
Absolutely.
know yourself best. So do what is going to work for you, right?
Yes. The powerful thing that I heard you say though was grieve. Take the time to grieve. Um, for me, I grieved so much while I was in it that when we officially separated, it felt like relief. And so I always say, whenever someone asks me my marital status, I always say I'm happily divorced. Like literally. And he hates when I say that, but it's true. I mean, I am happily divorced. And look, I will never say that our relationship didn't work because of him. No, our relationship didn't work because of things I did and things he did. I never say it's one sided. I contributed to the demise of the divorce as well. I wasn't healthy. Like, I'm so much more healthier now. And for me, my recovery was truly actually 12-step recovery, because I was in recovery. The program I went through is called Celebrate Recovery, and I went through that program for codependency. However, it helped me to eventually make a decision and take action, right? And so and one thing, one of my I call her my recovery mom. She told me when I first started, don't make a decision until you finish, right? So when I finished step study, that's when I made a decision. And so I was in recovery for a year. And then the second year I did step study, which lasts about a year. So it took me 2 years to take action, right? And I thought that was a wise piece of advice, because she knew I was a hot, jacked up mess. She knew I was deep into codependency, like I had so many codependent behaviors, and a lot of that's why I say I contributed to, you know. Um so yes, divorce is everybody's recovery process is going to look different. However, one of the most important things I heard you say is definitely you have to take the time to grieve, because divorce is like a death. It really is. It really is like a death. And I think that's why that verse is in Malachi about God hating divorce. And that's why, because it's like a death, you know. So before we get to our next question though, I want to know, what would you say is the most impactful book that you read that helped you with your process of divorce recovery?
So it was definitely the first book that I read. And y'all have to forgive me. It's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F. And hold
I
one
know that
second,
book.
because I have the book. Let me see. I
No,
think I
I
got
know
it
that
behind.
book. I know it. I never read it, but I always thought the title was so intriguing. So I may
Listen,
have to get that one and read that one.
and I thought I had it behind me, but I may have moved it. Um, but it was that book, and that book was actually referred to me from a guy friend of mine who had also just went through a divorce.
Okay.
And so that book was very important in my recovery. It was the first book that I read, and it almost helped me to find a level of just relief. Like
Okay.
it's okay. I needed someone to tell me it's okay, right?
Right.
You did what you had to do. It's okay. And now you need to keep going, right? You cannot
Yes.
stop there because there's so
Yes.
much more life ahead of this. And I think we get so focused on what we're going through that the future seems impossible. But
Mm-hmm.
in reality, it's not. If you just continue to put one foot in front of the other, I promise you will get there. And so that book helped me realize that,
Okay.
that there is still so much purpose ahead of me, and that my purpose, my identity was not that man and was not that divorce, right? Like
Right.
I am who I am, and I'm going to walk in my purpose, but I got to take that step. So that book was
Mhm.
really important. I also read a TD Jakes book, and I can't recall the title, but there was also a
Okay.
TD Jakes book that
Mhm.
was really helpful for me as well.
Okay. I love that. The subtle art of not giving a F. Okay. Um, the book that changed my life for me was Codependent No More by Melody Beattie. And actually, my husband, I got that from Sora Wiggins. I say that now. I don't say X. I don't like the way it sounds. But my husband and I had gone to Christian counseling with my pastor. Now he didn't go to church. I was shocked. He agreed to go. However, my pastor said it sounds like you're both codependent, and you need to read this book. And he was like, he said you're gonna see yourself all through the book. Um, but don't worry about that. Just keep reading it. Well, girl, I got the book, right? Codependent No More by Melody Beattie. I got the book. Yes, Sora Wiggins, I use your word now, husband, all the time. um, I started reading the book, right? The book pissed me off completely. I threw the book down, kicked it under the nightstand, and I did not pick that book up until a year later when I was actually in recovery for codependency. But that book changed my life. So I know what you're saying. Like sometimes a book can change the whole trajectory of your life, and that one book did it for me. And then the other thing I wanted to say is, when I felt like such a failure, um, that we had gone through the divorce, that the relationship wasn't working, everything I tried, we tried, he tried, just wasn't working, and I felt like such a failure. So I love that you said my identity is not in him, my identity is not in the divorce. I that is such a powerful statement, because I really just felt like such a failure. And just I had to keep going to recovery and keep working with coaches and keep working with my sponsor and my accountability partners to get over that, because I think for me, perfectionism was an issue, right? That was a codependent behavior. So, not being able to have a successful marriage was definitely hard for me, So, but I love that. That's not my identity. It's not my identity. And I have a whole lot of life left, like you said. So, we're at our next question now. What advice would you give anyone, but specifically women, right? My show is generally for women. I see some guys are on here. Thank you for joining. What advice would you give regarding divorce recovery? You've given some already, but like what would you tell someone?
Yeah, well, I would reinforce a lot of the same things that I've already said, but I think the main one um, is to always choose you. When in doubt, choose you. And so I think that's critical, regardless male or woman, right? Because I definitely don't want to ignore the flip side of it, the male experience, right? But I think at the end of the day, if you choose you and you remain grounded and rooted in whatever that is for you, right? If family grounds you, if the word grounds you, if your village, your church, your counselor, your therapist, whatever grounds you, whatever keeps you together, lean and depend on that. And just know that sometimes that divorce really is an act of self-care. Sometimes it's an act of survival, and know that that's okay, right?
Hmm.
That is okay, because there's still so much more ahead of you than what is behind you. And I love this analogy of driving, right?
Hmm.
We all know how to drive, but if we are constantly looking in our rear view, we are going to crash, right?
Right.
So we have got to keep our eyes and our focus on what lies ahead of us, because there is recovery ahead of us. There
Yes.
is good, loving companionship ahead of some of us. There are businesses to be born, there are books to write. We are so full of purpose. And if we get so hung up on our past and what we went through and what we no longer have, we are never going to birth and walk in the fullness of that purpose.
Oh, I
Um,
love that.
so I really feel like choosing you and leaning and depending on whatever it is that grounds and keeps you, um, do that, right? And know that there is so much more ahead. I think those are really the primary things. But the whole conversation has been infused with so many tidbits from you and from me, and so I hope everyone out there has taken a hold of something that resonates with you, and you
Yes.
take that and run with it.
Yes, yes, yes. One thing that if I could change one thing, right? If I could change one thing, I would have divorced sooner. And the reason why I say that is because I I'd rather not show an unhealthy relationship to my son. You know, we talked. Me and my son had such a very open communication relationship. So we were able to talk about so much. So I think that um, he's okay. I'm sure he's gonna make he's got his life to live, right? However, I realized that we modeled so many unhealthy behaviors for him. And so if I could go back and change one thing, I think I would have divorced sooner. So what's next? What's next for Shamira? What's next for Divinor Apparel? What's next? What's next for you?
Yep. So I mentioned earlier that I'm working on my third children's book. This one has a young lady as the main character, and it is infused with loving yourself. It is all about self love. I don't think we can teach that soon enough for our kids, because the
Oh,
world will
true.
tear them
Hmm.
down, right? The
Mm.
beauty standards between social media, and what they just experience on a day to day. I think it is so critical for them to start with a place of self love. So that's what that book is all about. And so I'm in the very beginning stages of it, but be on the lookout for that. Divinor continues to grow. So I am the owner and designer right now. And so I do have a new design that's actually dropping today. I'm wearing it. It says Goddess in Chief. And
Oh
it's
yeah, I
it's
saw that.
really
I'm
for
gonna have to get that one next.
yeah, it's a play on words from commander in chief to goddess in chief, and it is
Yeah.
about you know, the modern goddess. It is about empowering you to be that independent, strong woman, but to really still rest in your feminine self. To know that it's okay to ask for help. To know that it's okay to be soft and care for you, right? But know that you still run this, right? We still
Right.
run the world, right? Black women still run the world. Women still run the world, and so you are that goddess in chief, right? You are in charge, and you are the owner of your destiny. So that's next. I have so many more things to come that I'm looking forward to dropping with Divanor. And it's and really just to continue to take care of me, right? Continue to promote self-love, self-care, um, and spiritual growth, because so much of my growth is, you know, growing in Christ, because it is what grounds me. It is what keeps me. And so for people out there who, you know, that resonates with you, I've got some apparel that will speak to that coming down as well. So
Awesome. That is wonderful. So now, I want to try to do a show eventually with where we take some questions. However, the questions are so, I think the answers are so rich and so deep. There's usually not enough time to take questions. But I want to try that eventually. So how can the people keep up with you?
yeah, definitely. So you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook. So it's divanor.apparel, at divanor.apparel on Facebook and Instagram. If you'd like to follow my author page, it is just my name, Shamira Carr, on Instagram, and Shamira L. Carr on Facebook. And
Okay.
then, of course, booksbymira.com and divanorapparel.com. So,
Yes. And I'll make sure that I put all of that in the show notes. And you can, actually, you can just text me. If you text that to me, I'll make sure all of that gets in the show notes. Cause I know most of your handles, but a couple of them I wasn't sure about. So thank you so much for joining today. I'm really just hoping that this show inspires women. That's why my company is called Grow, Inspire, Sparkle, right? I was really broken, like, and I think that my I don't know if my outside matched the inside, but my goal with this company is to help women, the inside match the outside. Clean the inside of the cup, right? Make sure we deal with all the stuff, right? So that it can radiate from the outside. And that's why I chose to name this company Grow, Inspire, Sparkle. So you all can reach me through the handle Grow, Inspire, Sparkle on Facebook, on YouTube, and you can find my website that way as well, growinspiresparkle.com. On Instagram, it is grow underscore inspire underscore sparkle. So thank you again so much, Shamira of Divinor Apparel, and it's Divinor.
yes.
Just so you know, I will be putting it in the show notes. But if you want to go before I get that out there, that's how you spell it. And she's very modest on this particular program
Thank
today,
you.
but she has some really fly pieces. She has some nice summer pieces out. And she has, I mean, just you guys got to go to the website. She has jewelry, she has beautiful apparel, she has inspirational apparel. Just check it out. Thank you so much for joining me for
Thank
the month of
you.
July, your birthday month. I hope you had a
Yes,
great
I
birthday.
did.
And we will see you all at the next one. It's every third Saturday, Sparkle Saturdays. Thank you so much for joining and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Shamira.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye bye.
See ya.